We start at 11 tonight with a live look at Doppler 13 weather radar because we're keeping an eye on some scattered storms we saw this evening. You can see them there popping up now to our south as we look ahead to the weekend. Thanks for joining us on our WTHR streaming app. I'm Samantha Johnson here with Angela, filling in for Scott Swan on his birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday, Scott.
Happy birthday, Scott. We're talking about, we've had this heat around for a while now. Now we're talking about heat and potentially storms.
Yes, and we've had a few storms, nothing severe. The strongest storms so far tonight have been down to our south and west, and that's really where I expect them to stay over the next several hours. This is kind of a big view of radar showing a weakening complex across the southern part of the state. There are a couple of cells up toward the Rensselaer area, but the main focus now is near and south of St. Louis. Give you a couple of local views. There's some of that steadier rain south of Bloomington. No lightning associated with this area of rain, but it is raining from Bedford to Lake Monroe over towards Seymour. This is just part of a somewhat unsettled weather pattern that's going to stick around for the next couple of days. You can see with Future Track 13, the spotty showers continue to wind down as we lose daylight. There still may be some additional development overnight well to the south and more storm chances tomorrow. I'll have that timeline in the Friday forecast.
Angela, thanks. Well, it was a night centered on faith, but politics found its way into the conversation. Pastor and U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock was the keynote speaker at the opening service for IBE's summer celebration. 13 News reporter Emily Longnecker was there and shares tonight what he had to say.
Well, this was an ecumenical event to kick off Summer Celebration's spiritual programming. Warnock, a longtime pastor, quoted from the Bible several times tonight. He's also a United States Senator, a Democrat from Georgia, and he didn't shy away from politics either.
From the altar at Grace Apostolic Church Thursday night, the keynote speaker wore two hats interchangeably during his remarks. That of one of the nation's most recognizable pastors.
I want to talk to you tonight about God's vision for the land.
And also as one of the leading Democratic voices in politics.
It feels like we awake every single day in a strange land. Strange decisions being made. These are strange times.
As a longtime pastor at Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church, once led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Warnock is no stranger to blending faith and politics when he speaks, often talking about the intersection of faith and public service. Thursday, he called out Republicans for praying before passing the One Big Beautiful Bill that Warnock called ugly.
I saw them praying, but after I watched what they did, I had to ask myself, well, who were they praying to and what were they praying about? Because the God I know lifts valleys. God I know cares about the people in the valley.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates the new law will leave roughly 10 million more Americans without health insurance by 2034 because of changes to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. The law also makes significant cuts to SNAP, though the CBO has not issued a single estimate of how many people will lose food assistance benefits. Warnock's visit comes as Democrats nationwide look ahead to November's midterm election, when control of Congress will once again be on the ballot.
I got a feeling that come November, the valleys are going to rise up and speak to the crooked places in this nation and hold them to account.
Warnock's message echoing a theme that ran throughout his remarks: faith, justice, and engagement beyond just church walls.
And Warnock offered a call to action tonight for those gathered that combined both the spiritual and political, telling those here to keep praying, voting, organized, and standing up for the marginalized. In Indianapolis, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
So there are plenty of big events happening during summer celebration. The IBE Film Festival is this Saturday. The Business Conference is Monday. An Education Conference is scheduled for next Thursday. And the Music Heritage Festival will be next Saturday. We've got the full list of more events plus locations and times for you on our website. That's WTHR.com. Part of the experience at the Indiana Black Expo is trying food from local vendors. But this year, some vendors say that option is being taken away. One of them tells us they were notified just days before this event that they would not be allowed to sell food inside the Indiana Convention Center. That leaves attendees with only the venue's concessions options instead. Logan Gay shares the possible impact on our local businesses.
Desmond Berry, the owner of KJ Treats, was ready to bring her sweet treats back to the Indiana Black Expo inside the Indiana Convention Center. She spent months preparing, picking out desserts, ordering supplies, and making sure she was ready for what she hoped would be another successful year.
I was overjoyed.
This was Berry's booth last year, where she says she had a successful weekend connecting with customers and growing her business. She says she was selling out multiple days and even had to run home to bake more treats.
I was super excited because the first year we kind of hit it out the park and I wasn't expecting it.
But just days before this year's event, Berry says she was told outside food vendors would no longer be allowed to sell inside the convention center.
I was devastated. And to be honest, I cried. I did, because it was like all this work, all this preparation, even outside of, the expo, just getting my sitters together, making sure people taking off work to help.
She says she spent around $3,000 to prepare for the event. Now she has 40 dozen eggs and 2 boxes of butter in her fridge.
So now I have to pay for another spot at another market, another event. Maybe that's $150, maybe that's $75. So now I'm creating a bigger deficit.
Berry says the Indiana Black Expo is more than just a place to sell desserts.
I like the cultural experience. It's an experience, it's an event for everyone.
In a statement to 13 News, the Indiana Convention Center says it is working with Indiana Black Expo and the catering company for the convention center to find a solution that allows local small businesses to still participate. It reads in part, "We all recently learned that there are mismatches between the licenses that some of the vendors have compared with those that the health codes require for food and beverage distribution inside the Indiana Convention Center."
Things may be a little bit different, but we still want you to come out and enjoy yourself, and we'll try to find a solution soon.
In Indianapolis, Logan Gay, 13 News.
Now, we are in touch with the IBE about these changes. We are expecting an update soon, so we'll be sure to let you know as soon as we learn more. Well, the Indiana Fever are looking to get a win on their West Coast road trip. They are in Phoenix right now taking on the Mercury. It is halftime. We're on our streaming app tonight because that game is on Channel 13. So it's halftime. Like we mentioned, right now the Fever are down 53-47. No Caitlin Clark tonight. We knew that going into the game, but Aaliyah Boston is back after missing yesterday's game. So far, she has 10 points. Kelsey Mitchell has tallied 15 so far. Our Eli Gain will join us on air right after the game with a full recap on WTHR. Stay with us there. WTHR is your local TV home for the Fever, by the way. We will be airing 7 more games this season, so you can find that entire schedule at WTHR.com/fever. Here's a look at a few other stories making headlines right now. Tonight, a Kokomo woman with a history of animal torture will spend additional time in jail. A Marion County judge sentenced Crystal Scott to a year in jail. But here's the catch. She will only spend 33 days in jail. That's because she got moved to the Marion County Jail in February during an 18-month prison sentence and got credit for 151 days and good time in jail. Scott pleaded guilty after being caught neglecting more than a dozen animals just months after leaving federal prison for similar crimes. Right now, a person is recovering and a dozen people are displaced after an apartment fire. This happened around 4 this morning on the northwest side on Woodbrook Drive. The Pike Township Fire Department says the fire was coming from a second-floor apartment. That fire impacted 8 units. The cause still under investigation. The department and the American Red Cross are now working together to help those tenants impacted. Tonight, Hamilton County is reporting its first case of West Nile virus in a mosquito this season. The mosquito that tested positive came from Founders Park in Carmel. The department now plans to mosquito fog that area. It is also now asking residents there to take extra steps to eliminate mosquito breeding sites around their home. Indy DPW says a project to redesign the intersection at 10th and Rural is expected to start later this year. It'll cost about $19 million. The goal here is to improve safety by upgrading sidewalks, adding wheelchair-accessible ramps, and better lighting, too. Dozens of trees will also be planted in that area. Work is expected to wrap up by the end of next year. As a reminder, you can find all the latest local stories streaming anytime. Just scan that QR code here on your screen. Well, Hoosiers may be the lucky ones here in the U.S. as we have some of the lowest gas prices in the country, but that's coming with a cost. Recently, Governor Mike Braun extended the state's gas tax holiday for another month, and now the local and state roadwork budgets, though, are facing a combined loss of $533 million. For INDOT alone, there's a projected $358 million loss. Yet the department says, quote, INDOT has funds to cover all lost revenue from past and current emergency tax holidays without impact on current or planned projects and operations. 13 News talked with the governor about the loss. He says there's nothing to worry about.
They'll be replenished 100%. We've already started the process. State accounts will be as well, for one reason. The state is generating, like most other states would love to see, savings on its operations and revenues. We got the hottest economy in the Midwest.
So as for that gas tax holiday, it will be in effect now through August 6th. Governor Braun won't be able to suspend it again, though, without a special legislative session or other legislative approval. We also got to ask the governor about the latest with the Chicago Bears. You may remember the team's board of directors voted to advance plans for a $5 billion stadium in Northwest Indiana. The Bears still have many options, though, on their next potential home, from the city of Chicago to the suburbs of Illinois and Hammond, Indiana. Governor Braun tells us the state is still being pretty aggressive in trying to get that team to our state.
The mayor, Tom McDermott from Hammond, has done a really good job. We've both moved at the speed of business. I think that impressed them out of the gate, and that's why we're kind of in the red zone, where a lot of due diligence is being done on the final things you need to do before you actually formalize the deal.
Governor Braun using a little football lingo here. Red zone is good, right? Meaning the state is close to getting that deal across the goal line. Right now, a final site and construction timeline have not officially been decided. We'll keep an eye on it.